wife thinks I'm having an affair, and what she did next shocked me. My wife and I welcomed our daughter last December. It should have been the happiest time of our lives, but the birth was traumatic. Complications, panic, fear. The kind of experience that leaves a mark long after you leave the hospital. Not long after, my wife was diagnosed with postpartum depression. She had planned to return to work, but it became painfully clear that she wasn't ready. After many difficult conversations, we agreed she would stay home until our daughter turned 1, then reassess. She started therapy and committed to going weekly. I was proud of her for that. With her home full-time, I picked up extra hours at work. This wasn't sprung on her. We discussed it thoroughly. She knew what it would mean financially, emotionally, and logistically. A few weeks ago, my boss pulled me aside. He offered me a spot on a high-pressure project that required intense overtime over a short period. The upside? Significant pay and a major boost for my career. I didn't say yes right away. I went home and talked it through with my wife. We weighed the pros and cons together. Stress versus stability. Time versus opportunity. In the end, she encouraged me to take it. For the 4 weeks I'd be buried in work, my mother-in-law and my wife's best friend, Jessie, stepped in to help with the responsibilities I normally handled. Jessie is a stay-at-home mom with 2 young kids of her own. She started coming over during the day, keeping my wife company and helping with the children. Everything seemed manageable. Until 3 weeks into the project. That's when my team realized we were behind schedule. Deadlines shifted. The project would need a few more weeks. I dreaded that conversation. When I told my wife, she said she understood. Said she was okay with it. But something changed. She grew quiet, distant, emotionally withdrawn. At first, I didn't panic. This wasn't entirely out of character. Postpartum depression had made her moods unpredictable before. Waves of closeness followed by stretches of detachment. I told myself it was just another phase. I had no idea what was actually building beneath the surface. That at the time, I didn't think much of it. I assumed it was stress, exhaustion, the emotional turbulence that had become part of our new normal. But what I didn't realize was that someone else was quietly feeding the storm. Jessie, my wife's best friend. The same Jessie who had been spending nearly every day at our house, helping with the baby, sitting with my wife, talking for hours while I was buried at work. What I didn't know then was that Jessie had recently gone through a brutal breakup. Her husband had cheated on her. Not just a fling, a full-blown affair that blindsided her and shattered her trust. And instead of processing that pain in a healthy way, she projected it. Men don't just work more for no reason. That's always how it starts. He's probably seeing someone from work. Little comments at first. Half jokes. Casual observations wrapped in concern. But when someone is already vulnerable, already drowning in anxiety and self-doubt, those seeds take root fast. My wife started asking questions. Not curious ones. Accusing ones. Why are you really working so late? Who's on this project with you? Why didn't you answer your phone? I tried to stay patient. I reminded her, gently, that she had encouraged me to take the project. That we'd talked about the overtime. That this was temporary. But logic doesn't stand a chance against fear once fear takes control. And postpartum depression? It magnifies everything. Soon, reassurance stopped working. Explanations sounded like excuses. And every late night became evidence. Then came the shift I didn't see coming. She stopped arguing. Stopped questioning. Stopped bringing it up at all. She became eerily calm. Detached. Which, I would later learn, was far more terrifying than the fights. Because while I thought things were settling, she had already made a decision. Without telling me. Without confronting me. Without giving me a chance. She hired a private investigator. I didn't find out until weeks later. When she sat me down at the kitchen table with tears in her eyes and a folder in her hands. Inside were photographs. Not of me with another woman. Not of secret meetings or hotel rooms. But of me, walking into my office. Leaving late. Eating alone. Driving home exhausted. Page after page of timestamps, locations, and surveillance notes confirming exactly what I'd been saying all along. I wasn't cheating. I was working. Grinding myself into the ground, trying to support my family. And the worst part, she looked at me like she had been betrayed. I just needed to know. That sentence hit harder than any accusation ever had. Because in that moment, I realized, my wife didn't trust me anymore. And trust, once cracked like that, doesn't magically come back. The silence after that conversation was unbearable. Not yelling. Not crying. Just this thick, suffocating quiet sitting between us. I didn't even know what I was supposed to feel. Relief that the investigator cleared me. Anger that my own wife had me followed. Heartbreak that she truly believed I was capable of betraying her. All of it hit at once. What hurt the most wasn't the investigation. It was what it represented. She didn't come to me. Didn't talk to me. Didn't give me the benefit of the doubt. She went straight to surveillance. To proof. To confirmation that I was guilty. And once trust crosses that line, something fundamental shifts. For days, we barely spoke beyond logistics. Did you feed the baby? I'm going to bed. Can you grab diapers? Roommates. Not partners. Eventually, we had the conversation we couldn't avoid. She broke first. Through tears, she admitted how bad her thoughts had gotten. How convincing the doubts felt. How Jessie's comments, constant, subtle, relentless, started sounding like truth instead of paranoia. That's when Jesse's name finally surfaced. And yes, I was furious. Not because Jessie had made my wife do anything, she didn't force her hand, but because she poured gasoline on a fire she knew was already burning, projecting her own trauma, reinforcing every fear, validating every worst-case scenario. Still, blaming Jessie entirely felt too easy, because the reality was harsher. My wife made the choice. Depression didn't hire the investigator. Jessie didn't sign the contract. She did. That distinction mattered. Not for punishment, but for honesty. We talked for hours that night. The longest, rawest conversation we'd had in months. About fear. About loneliness. About how isolated she'd felt while I was working nonstop. About how alone I felt carrying everything financially and emotionally. Two people drowning in different ways, resenting each other for not noticing. She apologized. Genuinely. Brokenly. And here's the part Reddit will probably hate. I didn't know if sorry was enough. Because love wasn't the problem. Trust was. And trust, once fractured like that, doesn't heal just because both people are technically innocent. No affair. No betrayal. Yet the damage was real. People always think relationships only break from cheating. Sometimes they break from suspicion. From narratives. From stories we convince ourselves are true. So what did we do? We didn't magically fix everything. We didn't file for divorce either. We chose the hardest, least satisfying answer. We stayed and started over. Not romantically at first, but intentionally. More therapy, individually and together. Clearer communication. Brutally honest conversations about boundaries, fears, and influence. And yes, Jessie, she's no longer in our inner circle. Not because my wife needed a scapegoat, but because healing required distance from someone who normalized distrust. The end damage? It's this. I love my wife. She loves me. But there is now a scar where blind trust used to live. And maybe that's the most uncomfortable truth of all. You can survive something like this, but you don't come out unchanged.